Okay, well, I would like to welcome everyone to this webinar. My name is Thiago. Today we're going to be talking about Targo Core, the first of three of the webinar series 22. Thanks everyone for registering it. Today, I'm going to be making the introduction. My name is Thiago. I'm a CSM here at TagoIO. I work with projects all over the world. Many of you already know me. To those who don't, pleasure to meet you. Hope to have a chance to speak with you at some point. And very exciting webinar that we have to present it to you today. Some new features, and hopefully we're going to get a lot of questions um, and hear feedback from you all. In this call today, we also have our CEO and founder, Fabio Rosa, and Matt, which is our software developer and the lead developer on Targo Core. All right, so let's take a peek of what do we have on scope for the next webinar. So today we're going to be talking about the introduction, kind of reviewing what is the concept of Targo Core, what is the key feature, what's the application, and different applications that we can have using Targo Core. What kind of software, hardware, what resources do we need around you? What does Targo Core work with? What kind of architecture do you need? We're also going to be presenting a live demo and Q&A at the end to get your all feedback and hopefully answer some questions. Sorry about that. I have a mic feedback here. And also, please feel free to present yourselves on the chat. I'll be interacting with you through there as well. Some questions will be taken care of at the end. If we see that it makes sense, we can address them on the webinar as well. For the next webinars, we have for the next week, configuring Targo Core on edge devices and also configuring the Targo Core for the third webinar on AWS servers, which is really, really exciting. All right, with no further ado, I will pass the word to Fabio, our CEO. Fabio, you got it.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's great to be here talking to you all guys and update you about what we have been doing the last month related to the Targo Core, right? So we want to go a little bit to the basics here during this presentation. And as Thiago mentioned, we have other webinars in the next week and the following week to go in details for the application, the edge on the cloud. So first, it's like why we're doing that, right? So why Targo Core? So first, if you see, giving company like ours that has been focused on the cloud in the last years to connect devices, there are good things and there are limitations, right? Some of the challenge by work with cloud is first, you have latency. So we have a cloud in one place and device in another place, right? It can take some milliseconds, what can be not a big deal, but in other cases, it can be. Also, there are connectivity costs related to that. So if you have a device that you need to connect through a wireless network, it may be kind of for free, including the package that you already have. Let's say you have Wi-Fi, Bluetooth. Normally, it's not considered additional cost for that. But if you need cellular or something else, you may need as well to have to pay for that. And also may have privacy and security concerns. But why use the cloud today? Well, True is easy to scale, right? Doesn't mean that it's cheap all the time, but it's easy to scale, right? At least compare with having something on the edge. Also, basically, you have unlimited processing capability, right? You can scale and pay more, have more instance work for you in the cloud. And also you have an advantage. You have a life cycle management that's centralized. So if you need to update a program remotely, you can do this much easier. So what is the proposal of Targo Core? So we came with Targo Core to help to extend the cloud. That's the way we saw it. You can work separately from the cloud, but we believe that by adding a model that collect information because it's located closer to the edge can bring some benefits, can reduce the latency in real-time applications, can increase reliability, availability. For example, of course, it makes sense, right? If there is problem with connectivity or the cloud is off for some reason, we still can make a decision locally. And also can add some intelligence or a lot of intelligence and have more integration power locally. But we still can combine this local processing capability with the cloud. So for example, you can have a multiple site applications. For example, you can have application in one location, one country, or one site, and from the cloud, you can monitor all of them, maybe in real time, or at least when you need to do that. Also have the advantage to facilitate the life cycle management of your product. And of course, you also have distribute architecture. So let me show quickly here the architecture of the Targo Core. In this case, we show here when applied on the edge. Okay, so Targo Core is in the middle. So these are the key things that you have. You have a data processing. So for those who know Targo IO, have in mind that the scripts run in JavaScript, for example, that you have on Targo IO on the cloud today can be used here and run locally. You have data management, so you have the buckets, you can have the retention, so on. You have device management for the token authorization, for the network, the connectors, the parser. We are adding more and more devices so the application can be ready to go more easily and faster. And also have plugins. We are going to talk later about plugins, but with plugins is where you really can design a lot of flexibility for your project. So going from the south to the northbound here, you see that on the bottom, you have the direct application for the local sensors and the actuators, equipment, the local network. On the top, you have the benefit that you can integrate for the system. You can integrate with your private cloud, your server. Really, you don't need to use it only with Targo IO if you don't want, but you have a lot of advantage if you do that. And also, other thing here is that you can have your own database. So it's different from the Targo IO today that you access your data through APIs. Here, you manage your own database. So reality is that with Targo Core, you can have a lot of configuration. For example, in the left side here, you can have a Targo Core running your computer, running your edge. You can process everything, so you have a lot of advantage because, as I mentioned before, you can give intelligence locally in real time in a very light version. So you just need a few megabytes to run your Targo Core and build application on top of that. Or you can go to other architecture and install Targo Core on your cloud, on your Azure or Google account or AWS. Okay, so there are different ways. So when you talk about where you're going to run that, I just want to reinforce that we are working directly with some hardware providers like this that we're showing here, Siemens, Aeon, Dragino. These are just examples that are real. So we are working for them to make sure that it's not going to be able to run, because you can run Targo Core basically in any Linux system, but that's real. And we are going to be preparing tutorials and also plugins to access the hardware. For example, if you need application that run on industrial application, you can go to the mods like the IoT 2050 from Siemens that is very good, cost effective, and for industrial application, or the AEO SRG APL, that is the one, for example, that you have in our labs here. If you want to integrate, for example, if a LoRa one is basically native to integrate with the Dragino driver. And of course, more hardware setups and plugins are coming, but just want to enforce that we are working with companies like these three. Then there are more things related to the application itself. That's not only the hardware, but also you have the plugins where you can have support for different database. So here are example of some plugins that you have available now. We're creating more. If you go and download the Targo Core now, you're gonna see more, but it gives you idea that you have a plugin, for example, for a specific device, okay, or network, like you can see here for the Things network, activity, it's the same thing that you have in the Targo IoT today. So we are bringing here the plugins, and also for the database. For example, if you need for Postgres or a different, like MongoDB that is coming in the next weeks. So they are plugins that are available for you to use, in this case, database that you have more experience. So what's the formula of Targo Core? Because there are, of course, other systems that does, let's say, a little bit of this job, but there are something. First, that's free open. Okay, there is no cost. You have no plan at all to charge for that. So if you install this in one device, you have 1,000 devices running in your plant in different countries, is up to you. There is no cost for that. It's open. Matt is going to talk about that, about the details. You can synchronize these with Targo IoT if you want. Okay, and then of course you have a lot of advantage. For example, you can manage the devices, the cores, and also you can expand the core capability. And then you can complement it with Targo Run. So Targo Run brings a lot of advantage in terms of visualization, user management, brand. So you can basically keep the data locally if you are running in, for example, on the edge in your own server, keep it there and just send the transactions to the Targo RAM. I'm going to show you architecture 1 second. By the way, it's here. Okay, so there are different architectures that you can put this together. In this case here, for example, talk about the edge deployment. You can have the devices connected on Targo Core, and then from Targo Core, it's managed by Targo IoT, but you can keep the data locally here. You can keep as well if you want here at high level, but you decide where the data will be located, where you're going to process your data, and then you can give the visibility of the information to your customers. Let me give you just some example here. If you go to the industrial side, for example, it can be agriculture, it can be smart building and so on, but the higher availability and have a bad integration is very important in application like that. So in this case, you can see how this looks like. Okay, similar to the previous diagram that I showed, you can see on the left side, you can connect to the Targo Core sensors. For example, if you connect with LoRaWAN concentrator or gateway through MQTT or a different protocol, you can do that. Then you can process data locally and send the data to your account at Targo IoT to do certain level of processing. So you can process a lot of data locally and send it just a little bit. You can define how often you're going to send the data to the cloud. So you can, in this case, protect your information. Say, oh, hold on, I want to keep everything, almost everything here, but I want to send just a little bit of information to my user. And then you define here between Targo IoT and Targo Run, who is going to visualize this information, how this looks like. So that's one way you can do it. If you want also to run this, have some dashboards here locally in Targo Core, you can have it, but you cannot have Targo Core run locally. Targo run here on Targo Core, but there are some plugins that you can have some visualization as well. Another architecture that we're going to be covering in details in about 2 weeks in the other webinar is the possibility to have you installing Targo Core on your own cloud. Okay, when you do that, you basically can do all the processing on your side. You need to keep it, you negotiate, you pay them directly, and store the data on your side. And then you can still use benefits of the Targo Run and just pass through Targo IoT. So you go to the admin, you don't need to store the data here if you don't want to. You can process some data on Targo if you want, or maybe you process nothing. You just use this for visualization, for push notification, and so on. So there is different ways you can do that. I just want to show these two because that's normally what people ask us. So basically, this covered the basic. So if you have a question at any moment, I can see in the chat there or Q&A, feel free to make questions. Now I want to pass to Matt. He's gonna, of course, go to the most important thing that really show things live. But before he goes there, he will talk a little bit about the cluster, okay? Because that's something interesting that we notice people is demonstrate a lot of interest because with Targo Core, you can have a cluster. So Matt is with you now.
Thank you, Fabio. Thank you very much. Hi, my name is Matt, just as Fabio said, and I'm going to be presenting the Targo Core demo. But before we do that, let me just talk a little bit about what I'm presenting. So we're going to be covering plugins, what they are, how you can install them, and also we're going to be, after we cover plugins, we're going to be sending some data to our buckets, and then we're going to show this data from Targo Core directly inside of Targo IO Cloud. And we're going to show the data from Targo Core through something called a Targo IO integration. Now, this integration can take many forms. You can integrate your Targo Core directly through a standalone instance, or you can actually use a cluster, which is what Fabio just mentioned here. A cluster is basically a group of Targo Core instances which can connect to Targo IO in order to increase reliability and performance. So think of it as a server which contains multiple instances of a Targo Core. We're not going to be covering clusters on this particular webinar, but on the next one, where we talk a little bit about Edge, we're going to cover clusters, how you can create them, how they work, pretty much everything about clusters. Yeah, so I think it's time for our demo here. So let me just share my screen. All right, guys, let's go. Okay, so I'm very excited to be presenting here. So let's just jump right into it because we don't have that much time. First things first, I want to talk a little bit about plugins. Now, I know I mentioned this in previous webinars, but it's really important that we mention this once again. Targo Core is naturally very fast. We designed Targo Core to be extremely responsive and fast. And the way we achieve this is by stripping away all unnecessary modules in the application. We only have the actual necessary things to make Targo Core run. So we have devices here. We also have buckets, analysis, and actions. I'm not going to be covering what those are, but it's a very simple definition. If you want, you can always look it up in our documentation. But for the things that you actually want and are actually not necessary for Targo Core, we created plugins. And some plugins are actually very necessary for Targo Core. So you can do some pretty interesting stuff as well as some very basic stuff. For instance, Targo Core by default cannot store data on its own. So Targo Core, the actual application, cannot store data. We depend on a database plugin to store data from devices or actual devices or even buckets, analysis, actions, that sort of thing. So database plugins are a very crucial resource for Targo Core. All plugins in the application in Targo Core are shown here on the left side. You guys can actually see that I already have a plugin installed called SQLite. For those of you who are not familiar with SQLite, it's a database that can fit into a single file. All the data is stored in a single contained file. So it's very easy for us by using Targo Core to store all the data in the current machine. All right. Now, there are multiple types of plugins. I've mentioned database plugins, but of course, there are many, many types, which I'm going to be covering right now. If we head over to our store right here, our plugin store comes built in with Targo Core, and you can download any plugin that you'd like here. I've mentioned that SQLite comes built in with Targo Core because SQLite is our default and recommended database when you are just trying to learn Targo Core. But of course, we do offer some extra or some alternative options if you are trying to scale up your application. For instance, besides TagoCore, we also offer the MySQL plugin for databases and also the PostgreSQL plugin for databases. If you want to store your TagoCore data externally in a different server, different database, you can use any of these two plugins right here. But you cannot use SQLite because, again, SQLite is only a database for the local file system. And shying away from databases, we also have a bunch of different networks. We have the EveryNet LoRaWAN. We also have the Helium LoRaWAN, a bunch of different networks that you can connect and use with TagoCore. There's also plugins that are not necessary, but they do have some extra functionality. So for instance, right here, we have the file system of AWS. Normally on TagoCore, when you want to select a file or folder, you usually select it from the current computer or the computer which is running TagoCore. But by installing this plugin right here, you can then select files or folders directly from AWS S3, from a bucket in that service. And of course, we also have a bunch of other plugins such as MQTT, Node-RED, and we also have many, many others, such as Raspberry Pi, which only works on Raspberry Pi because it modifies or interacts with the GPIO pins of Raspberry Pi. Okay, so these are the plugins that we currently have available today. Feel free to actually create one. Okay, guys, so this is all the plugins that we have created, but our SDK is public and you can actually create your very own plugins. But let's actually follow our strategy here, because this is not the only thing that I want to show. This is just the first step. As I have mentioned, I wanted to explain what plugins are, what you can do with them, and I think I did that. And now we want to actually create an application and show data that is located right here in TagoCore in real time in our Tago.io Cloud dashboard. So the data will reside right here in my machine, but you can visualize this data in our Tago.io Cloud dashboard. And to actually do this, I'm going to be installing the Freezer Simulator plugin. This plugin is basically a simulation of a freezer. It simulates a freezer constantly sending data, much like a device, and you can actually see this data coming in and send it somewhere or do whatever you want with this data. Basically, a freezer simulation, as the name says. So let's just install this plugin right here. There we go, very easy. Let's just close this window. And as you can see, our freezer simulator needs a couple of parameters. It's asking us for the freezer type and the device ID. So let's go over to our devices and create a new device. And let's set the name of our device as freezer device. Again, not gonna be covering the basics here, but try and follow along to actually see the end result. Now I'm going to be going over to the More tab of my device and copying its ID, because we need the ID for the freezer simulation. I'm going to be pasting it right here. And for the other parameters, I'm just going to be picking the first option. If at any point you are feeling lost with what you should put in the fields, what you should write in them, take a look on the left side, which has all the documentation for our plugins. So let's save here. There we go. And now our freezer simulation is running. It is sending data every 5 seconds because this is what we configured right here. So if we go over to our buckets and click on show amount, we have 6 data points, which is correct because I think 10 seconds have elapsed, and every 5 seconds, it sends 3 data points. If we click our bucket and go over to variables, we can see that our bucket is being filled. So this is the first step that we want to do. We have installed a brand new plugin, configured it, and now data is coming in our bucket. Now let's go over to our next step. We want to show this data, or show the data from this freezer simulator in a Tago.io profile. And this is brand new. Okay, guys, this is only available on the latest version of TagoCore, which is the 0.5.0, which was just released a couple of days ago. So what we want to do here is, first off, have a profile in your Tago.io cloud platform, which you can use. And in this case, I have one. It's called Targo Core. It is virtually empty. So let's go back to our Targo Core and let's connect this particular instance with my Targo IO profile. To do that, let's click on this IO right here, and I need to insert my Targo IO credentials. Okay, so let's insert them. There we go. I'm just going to be picking my profile, which is named Targo Core. And for the instance name, I'm just going to be picking this one. Okay, so my profile is now connected with this particular instance. If I go over to my Targo IO cloud and click on cores, we can actually see that I have my instance connected. It is active, it is connected, and the last connection was a few seconds ago. If we click this instance, we can actually see its data, the computer usage, the summary. So as you guys remember, we have created a brand new device, which in turn creates a bucket by default. And we can also see the computer usage for my computer. And in this case, I'm running Targo Core on a Raspberry Pi right here by my side. So you're seeing all the data from a Raspberry Pi. Okay, the next step that we want to do is actually visualize the data that our freezer is sending. Since now we have connected Targo Core with our profile, we can then utilize this connection to grab data from Targo Core. To do so, I'm going to be creating a new dashboard. And I think the name is quite fitting. Let's put freezer dashboard because the name of our device is freezer device. So I think let's try and follow the pattern here. And for the widget, let's add a new one. And I think for this one, I'm just going to be picking a display because we don't need anything fancy. And right here, we have a data source. And this field will only appear if you have at least one Targo Core or Targo Core cluster connection. Okay, guys? So by default, if you have never connected Targo Core with your profile, you will never see this field. In this case, though, I have connected my mat.local machine, which is my Raspberry, to my Targo IO profile. So I'm going to be selecting mat.local. And then for the device, I'm going to be clicking freezer device, which is a device located in my Targo Core. And for the variable, I am going to be picking internal temperature because this is one of the variables that the freezer simulator sends. Okay, let's just hit create right here. All right. Now, this data that you guys are seeing right here is being acquired from Targo Core in real time. As you can see, the data source is from Targo Core. As you guys remember, a couple of seconds ago, I associated it. And now, as you can see, it is constantly changing because our freezer is sending simulated values to our Targo Core. And Targo Core is then sort of forwarding those values to Targo IO. Now, it's very important that you guys understand that these values right here are not being stored in Targo IO, okay? It's only on real time. It's only in the current moment. If I close this dashboard and open it again, the data that was sent is basically lost for me right here. Of course, it is still stored on Targo Core, but I don't have access to the previous data, okay? Targo Core needs to be connected at all times if you want to receive the data from the instance, and Targo Core also needs to have an active internet connection, okay? So it needs to be able to reach Targo IO servers and have an active internet connection. Okay, guys, so, well, hopefully you guys followed all that, but let's take it one step ahead. I think it's interesting that we do. So right here, we are seeing data from Targo Core, and we can actually prove this by going over to our Targo Core. And as you can see right here, we are sending an event every 5 seconds. And this proves that the data is being sent from Targo Core to Targo IO, not stored, but sent in real time, okay? What we want to do now is go back to our dashboard, and let's actually visualize this in a Targo Run, as Fabio has mentioned before. So Targo Run is one way that you can do this. You can then send the data or in real time visualize this data in a dashboard and then sort of distribute this dashboard or show this dashboard to your end users through Run. So let's go to our Run right here. And for those of you who are not familiar with Run, Fabio has mentioned, but it is basically a platform to deploy your solutions. And I have a run here called TagoCore.run.tago.io. I'm going to be clicking this, and it's asking for my login. So I'm just going to be putting my login right here. I already have an user. There we go. And by default, Tago Run sends us to the first dashboard. And this dashboard, it is the same dashboard that we saw on TagoCore Cloud. And it is being updated in real time. So as you can see, from 11, it just changed to 10. It just changed to 10 again. You guys can't see it, but I can from the terminal on my other screen. There we go, just changed to 8 once again. And it is going to be constantly updating until we sort of shut the connection down in our TagoCore instance. All right. And we can actually prove that TagoCore is sending this data by going over to our TagoCore, going over to our freezer simulator and stopping it right here. Now the freezer is not going to send data any longer. If we go back to our Tago Run, you can see that it is 7, the internal temperature, but it is no longer updating. But if I go over to go back to our TagoCore and start it once again, the data will be sent from TagoCore to Tago.io servers, not stored, only in passage. And then we can actually see the data being updated in a couple of seconds. There we go. All right, guys. Now, one last thing. This was I think the biggest feature that we wanted to show you guys. But one extra thing that I want to show is you can actually visualize this data in a mobile app, such as the mobile app of Tago Run. If you have a customized run or even a customized white label app, you can visualize this just as you would on the browser. I actually have a simulated device right here, an iPhone. And as you can see, it says freezer dashboard. And I am connected in the same Tago Run that you guys are seeing on the back of the screen right here. And if I click freezer dashboard, it's going to load our dashboard. And we can actually see the data from Tago Core in real time. And we can, if you think about it, we can actually go anywhere in the world and still see the data from our edge computing station. So you could, for instance, be on Canada and then visualize the data from your edge computing station in United States. So that's pretty interesting. Okay, so I think this is it from my side. Yeah, so Fabio and Thiago, take it away.
Yeah, no, that's great. So that's what I would comment, right, Matt? You are running the application. In this case, is very basic, right? On your edge, right? On computer. So you don't need the internet. Everything is running there locally, but you are still in this case sending the data for visualization, take advantage. So you can set up the rules, who is going to see this data. You can have different type of access, right? You can have, like I said, you have a plant in Canada, or you're located in Canada, you want to see the plant in different places in the United States. You can access this core, and the core is not only one device, right? The core can have a lot of devices, right? Can you just click on your core again on the left?
Yeah, right here.
Yeah, so yeah, in this case, you have a simulator freezer, right? But there is a list of devices there, and these devices on the left, you can add more and more. So you can have, let's say, a centralizer concentrator, that's a gateway. If you talk about the LoRa, you can connect, let's say, 100 devices, of course, as much as the gateway can support. And then on Tago Core, you'll be processing this data, take the decision, can send a lot of data, store a lot of data, may not have any cost. And then you say, okay, good. Now I want to visualize remotely. I want to push a notification, right? I want to send an email. You benefit by connect this with Tago Run, right?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, so feel free to make questions now. I have some here at any moment. So Thiago, I'll push one here. If you have something else, let us know. One, I don't know, I think you already answered, but is how often the display on the dashboard will refresh data?
Yeah, So at this moment, the data is being refreshed every time a TagoCore instance sends data. So if it sends data right now, it is going to be refreshing right now. It operates under the hood, basically how data in Tago.io works normally. So whenever a device, think of an actual device here in Tago.io, when it sends data, the data is instantly updated in a dashboard. So TagoCore operates in the same way. Whenever TagoCore sends the data for visualization here in the dashboard is updated instantly.
Right. Yeah. Other question is, can I also store all or part of my data on Targo.io? Is that possible?
Yeah, for sure. So TagoCore, as we have mentioned, the way this whole integration works is you store your data in a database that is not that does not belong to Tago.io. So you can store in an SQLite or MySQL or Postgres, whatever. And then what you can do is also create multiple widgets here that do not use the data source from your Tago Core. So you can create devices here directly on Tago.io that send the data directly to Tago.io once again, and visualize the data from those devices, but they have nothing to do with Tago Core. So you can mix and match, you can create multiple widgets, and only some of them you can make it that grab data from Tago Core.
All right. So other question is, what's coming next? I think that it's related to the new versions. What features, that I understand the question, what's coming next? What you're going to be deploying in the next phase? What can you share, Matt?
Yeah, for sure. So the next couple of updates are going to be very exciting. So we just hit the 0.5 version on Tago Core. Now it is not production ready. It is not 1.0, but we're working towards that. And we have a bunch of future features that we want to add. One of them actually is the ability for you to synchronize your buckets. We're still kind of working on that. And you can also expect multiple widgets to be able to receive data from Tago Core. Right now, only a handful of widgets can visualize or can actually display data from Tago Core, but we're working on being able to have all widgets right here. If we click on edit mode, we're working towards being able to have all these widgets receive and show data, or even in some cases actually send data to Tago Core. Which is actually the form. The form can send data to Tago.io, and then we're working towards making it being able to send data to Tago Core as well.
Great. And I know that also there is other developer in the team working the analytics, make integration with other companies that are going to be announcing soon. So really about the big data analytics. So that's going to be a specialization related to IoT, where you can make predictions and so on, something that we don't offer directly, but we are partnering with other company that are expert on that. And I think that would be great. I don't know when that will be ready, but I suspect that it will be not far from 1 month or so.
Yeah, sounds about right. Yes.
Yeah, it's great. Okay, so can you show again where people download the code, the latest version? If you don't have any question, we'll be ready to close.
Yeah, for sure. So you can download the latest version by going over to downloads. Downloads.tagocore.com. You can visualize the latest version, and you can also visit our website on tagocore.com. So we're going to be always releasing new versions, and you can always visit this page back for more information. But this is the main page that we are going to be making the new version available.
Perfect. Can you just go to the page tago.io/events so
yes,
we can close this? So today, that's the information that you had to share. I think, oh, there is another question, just quickly here. Okay, do Blueprint dashboard also work with Targo Core devices?
Yeah, great question. So this feature is in our roadmaps, but currently it does not work. Currently, we wanted to focus more on having normal dashboards and having a very solid experience in these dashboards, but you can expect blueprint dashboards in the upcoming updates. It is going to be very soon, along with the other widgets that I have mentioned. So expect blueprint dashboards being able to show TagoCore data as well as multiple widgets.
Okay, great. And also people are asking for a recorder for this meeting. Yes, after this meeting, give us a little bit time. We will forward the recording to everyone who attend or at least subscribe, register for this event. Great questions, appreciate. Then please make sure you register for the next event related to TagoCore. So on the page tago.io/events, and you click there, Matt, on the right side. Yeah, that's today. Then there is next one. That will be interesting because you're gonna be really focused on the edge. So you're gonna be getting specific hardware, showing how to go with the cluster. It'll be really much more technical. Talk about the memory capability, the plugins, database, and so on. And then the other one on August 4th, we are going to be showing how to install in the AWS server. Okay, and of course you can replicate this to Azure or Google or on your own server. All right, so make sure you register and then you can have a conversation from there. Yeah, if there is no further question, Thiago, I think we are ready to go.
All clear on my side too, Fabio.
All right. So thank you, everyone. Thank you for the participation. And you should expect the email with the recording soon. Thank you,
Thanks,
Matt.
everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.